Hi everyone, good morning.
Hi Bhaskar, morning.
Very good morning. Okay,
Morning,
there.
Bhaskar.
Very good morning. Yeah, so I hope you people have completed how we can implement incremental loading and full loading for multiple tables. And let's say, for example, if you have too many tables in the control table.
Bhaskar,
Okay, yeah,
I have one doubt. Just you can finish this session. After that, I can
yeah,
share
yeah,
my screen.
yeah. We'll see that. Okay, let's go here to the control table. Now I have only three tables here. Just imagine if I have a 9,000 rows. Okay, so you're trying to take the data from the lookup activity. I mean to say with lookup activity, you're taking data from this table. So when you take all the data from here, it is going to remove, it is going to give only 5,000 only, right? So 5,000 is the limitation. Now this is the question. If I wanted to give all this data, it's not possible. That is what Microsoft is saying. If you have more than this, then you can go with the batches. So two batches we can give it. Batch 1 will go with 4,500 and batch 2 will go with 4,500. Makes sense, right? So you have to iterate. This is going to be one time is going to be iterated and this is one time. So two times it is going to be iterated. That means you have to keep this everything inside the for each activity. Inside for each activity, you have to give it so that in first batch it is going to take 4,000 rows and second batch it is going to take the 4,000 rows. But in general is not possible. We never send this many items to the source. If all these items, if all this table, this is not a record, these are all table names. You're trying to read the data from the data source. It's not going to be possible. Okay, forget about this particular point for time being. Let's say I have 100 tables in the control table. Just imagine I have 100 tables in the control table. Now I wanted to take only like to get the data for these tables. This out of 100 tables, let's say 30 tables are having huge volume of data. Rest of them is not having huge volume of data, so we can easily do it. I don't have any problem for rest of the 70 tables. Okay, so those tables may have a full loading or incremental loading, whatever, but they're having very limited number of records on daily basis. We used to get it to just imagine. If that is the case, I can send all the 70 tables into one batch also, batch 1. Okay, and rest of this 30 tables is having very huge volume of data. In day wise itself, you just imagine 10 million records are getting on every day. If you have such kind of requirement, then definitely you cannot push all these 30 tables into batch 2. That is not the best practice. You have to break them as less as possible. Okay, so let's say, for example, out of this 30 tables, 5 tables are having 10 millions and rest of the tables having different records, different number of records we're having. Based on that, we're going to decide the batch numbers. Okay, and let's say I have a batch 3 fee tables, batch 4 fee tables, and batch 5 fee tables. Okay, so this batch numbers I'm going to use to make a schedule. To make the schedule, we are going to use this batch numbers so that it is going to restrict the number of tables. Okay, so some tables may go for some point of time. Let's say 8 a.m. IST, I wanted to schedule this batch 5 and batch 4. So you can schedule at that point of time. And this batch 3, I wanted to go with the 7 a.m. only. Only one batch I wanted to go for this. Here 2 batches are there and here is 1 batch is there. So depends on the requirement. If any of the new table is coming, you have to understand you're already having the batch numbers. At what time it is scheduled, at what time they wanted to expect this refresh, the refresh frequency of this particular table. So that gives by the requirement. Okay. So if they wanted to refresh at the 7 a.m., then you can feel that this is suitable for batch 3. But when you keep in the batch 3, you have to think about can we keep this inside this batch 3, because of course it is the 7 a.m. If you have all the tables are expecting at 7 a.m., we cannot keep everything in the batch 3 itself. We can go for other batch also. Okay. Other batch also we can keep. That batch number we can keep on the same time we can schedule it. We have to replicate the pipeline and we have to go with other batch. So when the moment you get the situation, then you can think alternative solutions. If anything is making you block, then definitely we'll think about it. So this is how the batch number is going to be useful in the real time. Any question as of now?
Please go, boss.
Okay. Now let's go and set up the stuff. I wanted to add a batch number. Okay, so that is one thing. And one more use case also I'm trying to give here itself. Let's say I have a same 100 tables. And every day 100 tables are taking data from the source and we are loading into the target. That is fine. And one fine day, customer is asking, can you stop one of the table data ingestion? Can you stop one of the table data ingestion? Let's say employee table. They're asking you to stop feeding data into the employee table. Then what you can do it? 100 tables are there. Are we going to remove this particular table from the control table?
We can keep a flag.
Exactly. So now flags plays key role here. The flag also you have to keep in the control table only. We don't know. Again, they may ask, can you enable it? Again, you have to set up all those things. Okay, so basically feeding a record in the control table, it is not going to harm. Because if you have a flag, then you can just take only active tables only, active data ingestion only you can take it. So flag is also important. I'm going to add these 2 columns into the control table. Okay, is everyone clear, right? What is the purpose of the flag?
Yeah, basically, flag is a column for differentiate the tables, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Alter tables. So I wanted to add the column is batch number first. Batch underscore number of type is integer I'm taking. And is active. Is active. Varchar. I'm just taking 10. Let's add these 2 columns to the control table. Now if we see the select star from table name. So batch number and is active. So I'm just going to update it. Basically, these 2 columns 100% will be there in the control table. Okay, so you will be having a source, table names, source databases, target details. Okay, if it is a database, then the database details. Okay, all those details are going to be there. You can feel that. Okay, I cannot bring all the things into the discussion because of the time constraint. Okay, so this is for only data ingestion. There is a data transformation from bronze to silver to gold. Okay, so that particular part also is going to be there in the control table. Okay, so landing file names, bronze table names, and silver table names, and when it is loaded, And again, we're also going to have a goal. All this entire flow details are going to be there in the control table. So I'm just trying to keep as much as possible. And you can feel at the time of working because they will be having enough time at the time of working. Now let me update this batch number. You just imagine I wanted to keep this department and customer into one batch and employee table into another batch. Update. Let me take the copy to avoid the time. Let's say batch number is 01. You can have any naming standard, you can have it. Okay, it's up to you. Let me take only one. And then is active.
Since it was an integer, why we keep that?
Sorry. It's a typo. Good. Now I'm just going to say yes. Customer and department. I'm going to keep one batch number. Now you can see batch number 1 for these two tables and flag is active. And one more update statement for employee. Let's say keep this batch 2. Now the question is like, just imagine, again, I'm just going to give, these are all use cases only. As I said, you just take an example, 100 tables. And 101 table is given to you to ingest it. 101 is given to you. What you can do, you have to keep batch number, some batch number you're going to keep, some flag also you're required to keep it. Okay, so if you want to run only a data ingestion for your table, not for other tables, when you're using a debug, when you use the debug, it is going to read the data from the control table, right? So when it is reading data from your control table, it has to get the details for your data ingestion, your table ingestion only, it has to bring it. If it is taking all the 100 tables, then it is going to load all the tables. So because let's say, for example, there is only 2 batches. You have to keep the batch number 1 or batch 2. You should not keep while doing a testing or while doing your development. You're not supposed to keep a batch number for, I mean to say, you're not supposed to keep or you're not supposed to attach your data ingestion to the existed batches. You should not do it. Just keep some other batch number which is not existed in the table. Okay, so which is not existed in the table, you're not supposed to keep it. Let's say, for example, you have to cross verify. Take the distinct of this batch number and you will get it right. So you have to take some batch number. Let's say I used to take 1001. Okay, 1001 I used to take it. If it is existed, I'll go with the 1002. You can take any batch number. It's up to you. Okay, so that batch number is for you. You're doing something for that. Once everything is perfectly all right, then you're supposed to keep any of the batch. You can keep your data ingestion batch number as per your requirement. Based on that requirement, you can decide which batch number is falling under. Like, we are also going to have a frequency of the refresh. Okay, so daily once, twice, all these details will be there. If it is once, then what is the time? If it is twice, then what is the times? So based on that also, you can decide in which batch it is going to coming under. So that batch number, you can update it. You got my point, right?
Yes, Vasu.
Okay, this is also the real-time use case. Because if you go and keep one, and if you run it, every once, whatever is there inside the batch 1 will be run. So to avoid it, we are going to give some other batch number to run it. Even when you are keeping in the production also, for before going for production, you have to test in the testing environment. Once you feel that everything is fine, then you can feed those details into the production control table. Once you test it, then you can go for You can give directly, if it is a production, you can give the right batch number and you can monitor it. If something goes wrong, you have to set it. You have to work on it because it's a new ingestion, right? 101 table is the new ingestion. You have to monitor at least 3 to 5 days. You are going to monitor the same job from your side. Okay, so that is what it is, very important control table. Now I'm just going to update this one also with batch number 2. Let's say select star from table name. Now your batches are fine. I wanted to run a job for only batch 1. Batch number 1, I wanted to read it. Okay, so how you're going to do it? Now the question is, basically this batch numbers will be given to the triggers. Batch numbers will be given to the triggers. Okay, so before going to the trigger, let's have a look with the is active. Is active need to be handled not with the trigger. Out of the trigger, we need to handle it. We already seen how we can do it. So let's come to here. The same pipeline I'm just taking. I don't want to replicate too many times. So just leave it. I'm just going to do the changes here itself. If it is active, then I wanted to load the data. So where we can check here itself, we can check, right? This is the if condition activity. Here, what condition you're checking? You're checking IL or not. IL or not, you're checking it. Okay, so we can also take not if we take active, how we can make the condition. Okay, so instead of going here, you can take directly here itself in the lookup tables. We don't need to go there, not here. Yeah, here itself. Where is the query? Where? Is active equals to yes. Makes sense, right? So it is going to take only active. If I make this load type is no, then automatically this is not going to get. If it is active, then it is going to get it. Let's change only this particular change only. No need to change other places. Is everyone fine with that?
Yes, Bhaskar.
Okay. So now let's create a trigger. Basically, I wanted to take this batch number. I wanted to give it to the trigger. Okay. So batch number is required. How? Okay. Batch number, we're going to specify there, and here we are going to give it. Okay, so let's go and create a first, what I can say, one parameter is required. Incremental loading for multiple tables. Let's clone this one. Okay, so whatever the pipelines you created, those pipeline has to come into the scheduling. Okay, so there are still, do not think that the schedule I'm explaining it is end of the data factory. No, there are many things are there. So here itself, I wanted to touch it so that you can understand, because I'm touching this control table with many options. So here itself, I wanted to talk about this schedule also. If I wanted to schedule your process, how we are going to do it in the data factory. Okay, so in the data factory, by using data factory, we can do the orchestration. Orchestration means you're going to do this entire processing right from the source till the target, you're going to do it. In between that, you will be having different layers, you're going to have it. That's fine. This entire thing, you're going to do automation with the help of Azure Data Factory. If you have a Azure Data Factory plus ADB, Azure Databricks, then definitely mostly you're going to use the Azure Data Factory for data orchestration. If you have only, if your project is having only Azure Databricks, then you can do directly with Azure Databricks itself. We can do the orchestration with the workflow. Okay, so that also I'm going to take you through as part of our sessions. If you want to do with the orchestration with the data factory, how you can do it. If you want to do with the Azure Databricks, how we can do it, we are going to see. Okay, now, if I wanted to schedule this, or if you wanted to automate my process after setting up, there will be master pipelines also comes into picture. We'll see that later. In order to automate, we have a triggers. In the data factory, we are going to use the triggers. Your database triggers and Databricks triggers are completely different. Okay, so that is for restricting data for based on the conditions wise, but this is for scheduling. We have it. Basically, there are 3 different types of triggers we're having. Even when you go for interview, they're going to ask, what are the different types of triggers we're having? A schedule trigger. There may be typo. Schedule trigger and tumbling window trigger. Tumbling window trigger and event-based trigger. These 3 triggers are available. Schedule trigger, tumbling window trigger, and event-based trigger. I'm going to show you all of them. But 90% of the time we are going to use this. In my experience, I used 100%. I used 100% only schedule-based trigger. Now you need to understand when you can go for schedule-based trigger. And there is a tumbling window trigger also is important for interview. Okay, so to make you or to work on this tumbling window trigger, until unless you get the requirement, you may not come across this. Okay, but interview point of it is very important. At least you need to talk few points about it, but you can say the point, I did not get a chance to work with this. But I'm going to take you through on what situation there is a chances to work with the tumbling window trigger. So one use case I'm going to take you through that will help you how we can use the tumbling window trigger to work with real time, how we are going to read incremental file loading. Okay, so incremental file loading is important for real time. If we get a chance, we are going to use it. Incremental file loading, or even like, if the, what we can say, even we can also go for incremental loading in the backward. Basically, the schedule trigger is going to help you to go for feature loading. But when you go for tumbling, it will also go for past. It will also go for past. So that is having capability. Okay, so if you have such kind of requirement, we can go for that. And this is more useful for real-time data processing. Real-time data, if you wanted to read real-time data, then you can go for tumbling window trigger. Otherwise, we don't get it. So that's what I'm saying. If you get a chance, then only can get to know. But the context that I'm going to take you through with one of the use case so that you can understand about tumbling window trigger. And event-based trigger, also, I did not come across it. But
Bhaskar,
there is,
you mentioned for tumbling window for this modified date. To load
yes,
the
date is required. Date is required. Without date, you cannot go. Yeah, of course. That I told you, right? Incremental file loading. I'm going to use the modified date column. We'll see that so that you can understand. To
load the
work,
latest data
yeah,
file.
yes. To work with this tumbling window, you need to know about the get metadata activity. I'm going to talk about it very soon. Okay, so then only I'm going to explain. When I go with this one, definitely I'm going to touch this tumbling window. So there I'm going to cover other activities also. And other trigger is event-based trigger. So this event-based trigger depends on the event, it is going to trigger your pipeline. Okay, so I mean to say the schedule trigger is we are going to set up the time. I wanted to run my pipeline every day at 9 a.m. You're fixing the time period. So that is what it is scheduled. But when you go for tumbling window, it's not like that. It is when you come for across this tumbling window, I'll talk more about it. For timing, I'm just going to say there is a one trigger that is a tumbling window trigger. And event-based trigger also, I'm going to talk little more details when the time comes. Now I'm just going to talk more in detail about this schedule trigger only. So schedule trigger, if you want to run at some point of time, you fix the frequency of the time, or how many number of frequencies you wanted to run, you fixed it, and at what time you wanted to run, you fixed it. If you have a fixed interval, then you can go for schedule based trigger. Okay, so this will be 90% of the time you're going to use, and it is much more suitable for batch processing. It is not suitable for real-time data processing. If you want to go for real-time data processing, then you need to go for tumbling window trigger. Okay, now let's go and see few points about this trigger I gave here. These points will helpful for interview if you're appearing for interview. As I said, there are three different types of triggers. One is schedule trigger, tumbling window trigger, and storage event trigger. Okay, so event-based trigger it is. When you want to run the pipeline at a set frequency, then you can go for a schedule trigger. And this is used for only feature loads. You cannot use it for past load. If you have a past load, then you have to go for tumbling. If you have a real time, then you have to go for tumbling. And this cannot be retried. If trigger is failed for some reason, if trigger is failed, it is not going to be retried its own. By its own, it is not going to be triggered. I mean to say, if it is failed, it's not going to be retried by its own. So someone has to go and restart the trigger. That is one of the limitations that we are having in the schedule-based trigger. Someone has to restart it. But when you go for pipeline is having a retry. If we go for copy data activity, also is having a retry option. Okay, so let me show you. If you take a copy activity, you can see here retry option is there. Okay, so at the activity level we can go for retry, but at the trigger level, if it is a schedule based trigger, then we do not have a retry option. So if it is failed, it is failed. Someone has to go and run it, or you have to wait for next iteration. Now I wanted to create a trigger. How we are going to create a trigger? Let me show you.
So kind of refresh in Power BI online sources, right?
Of course, it's a refresh. So not only Power BI, wherever you go, refresh will be there. Because we're dealing with the data, right? So definitely we require to make it refresh. If you want to compare with Power BI, yes, it is. Now let's go to the triggers. I wanted to create a trigger here. Everyone is not going to create a trigger. Okay, so if you're creating, there should be a purpose. You're not supposed to go and create a trigger like that. Okay, so it depends on the requirement, it depends on the approvals, we're going to create it. Otherwise, when you give this code for review, the reviewer is going to review why you have created a trigger. If your requirement satisfies, then he is going to approve it. Then only can merge this code with the working main branch. We'll talk about it, how exactly it is going to be there. For time being, I'm just going to create a trigger. I'm just giving a batch processing trigger. I'm just giving a time at 8:45. I'm just giving some name for better understanding. So we have a schedule trigger, tumbling window trigger, and storage events trigger. This is a newly introduced. Okay, so I did not come across this. If you want to explore, you can explore. I'm just going to take only schedule. In my experience, I came across only schedule. But I'm going to take you through this rest of the two also as part of our sessions. And I have taken the schedule trigger and just leave it as it is the start time. And it is taking the time zone based on our UTC plus 530. 530 is going to be added to your UTC. But if you go for tumbling, I guess it is going to take only UTC time zone. We'll see that when time comes. And
How to find out this is IST time and CT time?
here
What-
it is there, right? Clearly it is saying UTC plus 530. What time it is? It's a standard wherever you go. It's a Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai. You can see that. You can feel that when you see that. If you have only UTC, then it is a UTC. It's a common for
And-
everyone.
And it is 5:30 a.m. Yeah, p.m.
Man, what is this, man? See, when you go for it's a time international time standard, right? UTC plus 530. It's a IST only. This 530, whatever it is, why you need to know about this 530 AM or what it is? Depends on this. For this time, it is going to be added 530. 5 hours 30 minutes will be added. If this is having AM plus 530 is going to be there. Let's say, for example, here it is a 7 AM UTC. Plus 530, what is the time in our case?
That's
So-
our IST, right?
Yeah, this is the IST. For this one, it is going to be added 530. So that means 7 plus 5. It is 12.
12:30.
So 12:30, right?
12:30, that is 12:30 p.m.
12:30 AM. 12:30 PM. Yeah,
PM.
12:30 PM. So you have to think like that. For whatever the
That
time
will
it
be
is having
out
for
of
UTC,
context, right?
yeah. If whatever the time they're having, we are just going to add 5 hours 30 minutes.
Actually, client actually asked me. Yeah, I confused that. That's all.
You can spend some time. There is calendars. You can search in the Google also. Okay. You can use the converter, UTC converter. If you have some time, you just convert into IST. So here it is clearly saying my data factory was created in the Central India, right? So because of that reason, it is taking by default that. If you created your data factory some other reason, it will take that reason, UTC plus that particular region. Okay. Now recurrence, I need to specify how I wanted to run on every day. I wanted to run every day once. Every day, one time I wanted to run it. And if you wanted to have a execution at some particular point of time, then we can specify here. I'm just going to say 8. Let's make this. I need to have some other time. Let's make this at 9 for better side. Because I need to bring that batch number and all. So minutes, you can just leave it as it is. Okay, so as many times as you want to run on every day, that you can specify here. Daily, one time it is going to run. If you give 1, at what time and what minutes you can specify. And
we need to specify the hours in the 24. Is it going to be a 12 basically AM or PM like, or should it be like if it is
you have to
4
specify.
PM, then it should be 16.
Yes, it is. You have to specify like that.
Okay.
And here you have to give the ones, because we are not having a feasibility to show you here, or like you can see the hours also. Hours must be in the range of 0 to 23 and minutes must be range in the 0 to 59. Okay, they have given a note also here. So I'm just taking 9. And you can specify in time. I'm not specifying in time. While doing a practice, once you've done your complete, try to remove that. Okay. So if you if you don't keep this ending time, what happens is it is going to run an every day. Better I'm just going to keep the ending date because I don't want to run it on tomorrow, so that I can avoid multiple time runs. If there is a multiple time runs, like that will be chargeable, especially when you go for tumbling window. You have to, once it is done your practice, make sure to remove the tumbling window trigger. Otherwise, if you give a frequency of 5 minutes, every 5 minutes it is going to run it. Parallel it is going to run. Okay, so every specific window will be there. So it's very dangerous for educational purpose.
Okay.
And
Execute at this time 9 hours. What the meaning of this?
9
And
a.m.
and schedules execution time 9:05. Just
905 is coming is because of this. Okay, let's make this 0. Now, happy?
and for 9 hours. What is the meaning of this? 9 hours. Execute at
9
this.
a.m. 9 a.m. It will
On
start at 9 a.m.
Oh, and then hours. What it means here 9. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is what it is, a 9, right?
9.
Okay.
Okay.
Now start trigger on creation. Basically, in real time, we don't check the checkbox. We are not supposed to start immediately. Okay, so let it uncheck and hit on OK. Now trigger is created. For this particular trigger, I need to add a pipeline. So trigger is going to expect a pipeline. So now you created a trigger. It is in the status of the stop. That is the best approach while doing the development. Okay, so we need to attach a pipeline to this. We are already having a pipeline, incremental loading pipeline, and I'm just going to attach to this. To attach it, what you have to do is go to your pipeline. This is your pipeline. I'm just going to say scheduling. Yes, perfect. Add trigger. New. We already created trigger, right? Just going to take a trigger like this. So you will be having multiple triggers. You need to understand, is this pipeline falling under this trigger or that trigger? You have to decide it. Based on that, you are going to choose it. If it is not falling in any of the existed trigger, then you have to think about creating a new trigger. You have to check with your team. You have to cross verify with everyone. Then only you can go for creating a trigger. Okay, if it is falling under any of the existed trigger, then just go and choose that. That is what you are going to do it. Let's say hit OK. And here it is not having a parameters. I'm going to create a parameters now. Okay. Now this pipeline, I wanted to keep one parameter, that is batch number. I'm going to create a parameter called parameter underscore batch number. Of type is what? Integer. Okay, so I'm just going to give the value 1. I wanted to give the batch number value is 1. Okay, that is the default value I'm taking. Basically, we don't give, you have to give like 1001. If you're working for your data ingestion, you just give 1001 to run it. Now, what happens if I try to run it? Just observe, when I try to debug it is asking what is the value of this batch number. If you enter it, then only it is going to be taken. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to take the trigger. I'm just going to take the batch number from the trigger. Somewhere, let's go to trigger again. I think I need to recreate it. Let me do one thing. This is the one of the problem. I'm not having feasibility here. Let me make this cancel, and I'm just going to recreate it. 1 day. Starting time is 9. So to get that, I'm just going to say 9:16 will come. So I'm just keeping the end time also. Now, if I add this into the pipeline, now it is asking a parameters. It okay? I think somewhere I need to keep it.
Saying that the pipeline has no parameters.
Is that okay? My God, I think we have discarded. Oh my God. Okay, let me create a new parameter p underscore batch underscore number. At the time of working, you will be having enough time. You can do it in general. Let's publish this first. I'll create another trigger. And let's recreate it. Otherwise, day, just specify the time. Hit OK. Now let's go to the pipeline. Now it is asking the batch number. Okay, so I'm just going to give the 0. Let's give the 1. Hit OK. For trigger, you have to fix the batch number. Okay, you have to fix the batch number. And what you can do is when it is running, it is going to take that particular batch number, and that batch number you have to give it to here. Your trigger is having a batch number, right? So
Inside the loop backend, right?
yeah, somewhere we need to give it. I think here itself we can give. And batch number equals to
To specify that.
so I'm just taking the batch number here. So from the trigger, because trigger is having that. And if this batch number equals to trigger batch number is that right? So for that tables only it is going to be taken here. You got my point, right?
Yeah, it was to say.
Following with me? I hear multiple talks. You understand what I'm trying to explain here?
Yeah, understood. You are just creating a parameter to dynamically store the value, right?
Yeah. So for trigger, we'll expect the parameter. Whenever you run your pipeline, if you have a pipeline parameters, we created a pipeline parameters here. Okay. So this pipeline is having a parameter called p underscore batch underscore number. So this batch number will be expected in this particular place when we give the batch number. It is going to take from here. Here it is having 1001. This 1001 is the default value. It is going to be override and will be taken from the trigger. So which one will be having high priority means it is going to have a high priority from the trigger. So trigger is having a right batch number. We kept is 1, but here it is 1001. This will be replaced with 1. You got my point, right? This 1 will go to this place to get only batch 1 tables. Following with me?
Actually, now it's 1001. So when we are
1001
popping this,
for testing purpose, I take it.
yeah.
Once everything is fine, you have to give that right batch number, right? So that is there in the
Okay.
trigger. Okay, so you have to attach your existed one.
So default value, if we kept blank also, that's fine, sir.
You can keep blank also. Anything is fine. Okay. I'm just keeping 1001.
Always ask the value.
Oh yes, when you have a parameter, when the moment even if I trigger, if I debug, it is asking batch number. Okay, in the same way, this is also a trigger only. Debug is a trigger, on-demand trigger. You're demanding to run now itself. So that is what it is, on-demand trigger. Okay, so debug is you're debugging, and trigger now also is on-demand trigger. You can say trigger on demand run of the last published pipeline. If you want to go for trigger now, this pipeline should be published.
Sorry, what is the difference in debug and trigger?
Say debug, even we don't need to publish the changes. Now changes are done, right? Some changes happen. I don't need to push the changes into the data factory. I can directly go with the debug. But if I wanted to go for trigger now, if you want to demand to run now, this is also same trigger now only, but only thing is we don't need to publish the changes. It will take the changes whatever is available at this point of time. But here this trigger now is going to take whatever the changes available in the data factory. Last changes in the data factory will be taken. Okay. And this new or edit is going to take the schedule. We already attached the trigger here. You can find one trigger is attached. One pipeline can have a multiple triggers also. Okay, now let me publish this.
And if you want to execute the one pipeline, then you can
Can run.
and if you want to execute a multiple, then we will do
If
trigger.
you go with the trigger, if trigger is having one pipeline, it will execute one pipeline.
And
If trigger
parallel,
is
parallel, if I want to execute the trigger.
I'll come to that point. Okay, so if your trigger is having one pipeline, a trigger is there. If trigger is associated with one pipeline, then it is going to execute one pipeline. You're not going to run the pipeline. You're going to run the trigger. This one pipeline you're running only at the time of development. You're
But
not
actually,
going to come to here, right, every day.
yesterday actually one task assigned to me is
1 minute. Let me complete. Then you can ask me question. Okay, so you'll get some clarity. Now, if my trigger is associated with multiple pipelines, because this trigger I'm talking about schedule trigger, right? Schedule trigger is going to have a multiple pipelines. So let's say second pipeline 1 and pipeline 2 is connected. So that means this one trigger is associated with many pipelines. So that means if this trigger is running at 9 a.m., if I trigger this one, automatically whatever the pipelines are associated with this trigger is going to run. If I have a many pipelines, and many pipelines are going to run parallelly. All pipelines are going to run parallelly. Okay. And
So trigger is the single time we can use
Exactly.
multiple pipelines.
Exactly. We can run multiple pipelines parallelly. And there is a one pipeline. Just imagine this pipeline can use multiple triggers also. Trigger 1, this trigger is scheduled at 8 a.m. and this trigger is scheduled at 10 p.m. Something like this. So one pipeline can have a multiple triggers also. So many to many relationship will be there between the schedule trigger and pipelines.
Okay, totally understood.
Okay. And there is a tumbling window is there, that is 1-to-1. Because that's not going to be possible. I'll talk about it. Now you ask about your question, Chrisles.
No, actually, yesterday, one task assigned to me, 17 data set you have to load in prod in one. What I have done actually, I just execute the query in control table and the data set column appear over there. One by one, I copy the data set name and then go to the trigger. And when I press the trigger, then for column is there. Below it is mentioned data set name. Just I copy and paste the data set name and just execute this. So parallelly 3 to 4 data set name I just key in trigger and execute. So one guy actually instructed me to just to do these things. So parallelly actually I executed 4 to 5 data set and it is loaded in a product.
Okay. So that's fine. Like this pipeline again, all three pipelines, pipeline 1, pipeline 2, pipeline 3 will go execute parallelly. Inside this pipeline also again, if you have too many data sets, this one also you can go for parallel execution. If you have a copy activity, you can do parallel execution for this. Again, this is different. This will go for somewhere and get the data, and this we may go for some other data source. The source of this system may be different, the source of this pipeline may be different, and this pipeline also may be different. But all are falling under the same time. Then we can use the same trigger to call those pipelines. Okay, so try to understand the situation. Based on that, we can play around it. Now, I wanted to start this trigger because 2 minutes left. Just give me a minute. A trigger, where is the trigger? Let's start it. Publish it. So when the time comes, it is going to trigger your pipeline. If the trigger is not started, then first of all, it will not go for anything. Now trigger is in started mode. Let's go to the monitor. There is a monitor to monitor your jobs. You can have all the running pipelines, debug pipelines. So you can see the debug pipelines here. In the trigger pipelines, you are going to see them. Wait for some time.
Would it ask for the parameter value?
No, we fixed it right already at the time of trigger at it. When we attach the trigger, it asked us to enter the value. We entered already.
Okay.
So that batch number is going to check in the control table. Now you can see it has started processing. %% triggers are going to ask you to pass the values. Parameters will be there. So I'm not keeping any data here. So everything will be 0 records will be loaded because we did not add any new records into the source tables. And only this full loading is going to be truncate and load is going to be happen. Do not forget to keep the ending date for the trigger for practicing, or you can remove the trigger once you feel okay, I'm good in the triggers, then you can just remove the trigger so that it is not going to be triggered on every day.
We can keep the end date also. No?
Yeah, that is better. By keeping end date is the better practice, educational purpose.
Bhaskar, I have one scenario.
Mhm.
On that scenario, please let me know which trigger would work. Suppose my file comes between 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Mhm.
So I just want to trigger only between that time every day. So is there any option over there?
If the file is not coming in that particular time period,
It is coming in the particular time period only between 12 p.m. to
then you can go for schedule.
schedule, but we define the time limit
No,
between
no,
this to this?
no, we cannot.
It will
If
run. Suppose
if
if I do every 15 minutes, just check for the file.
then tumbling window.
Every 15 minutes, just check
Yeah.
for the file.
Yes.
Schedule also we can run every 15 minutes. No?
Basically, if your iteration is taking more than 15 minutes, then what happens? Okay, so in my case, there is we can also do that. Let's say in one of my projects, there is a hourly refresh.
Early
Okay.
refresh is
Yeah,
there.
hourly
Yeah.
refresh is there.
Mm.
The data source is the Teradata. Every 1 hour, we're refreshing it. Okay. That pipeline was designed already. Too many pipelines are created. On top of all these pipelines, we created one master pipeline. It was already designed. Okay. And they schedule this pipeline to run on every 1 hour. Okay. So here they have taken like if this particular iteration, it has to complete. When I say early refresh means it has to complete in an hour, right? If it is sometimes like I faced many times, at least 2 times every month. If it is taking more than 1 hour,
Mm.
then next iteration is going to be failed because this is a schedule trigger.
Mm.
They created a schedule trigger. If it is a tumbling window trigger, then there will be no problem. They don't go for tumbling window trigger is because um, I don't know. Basically, they can go, but since they have a 1 hour time period, they went for different approach. Okay, if you want to see for every 5 minutes, then schedule is not going to work. If you go for 15 minutes, every 15 minutes, if you wanted to do some action, the schedule is not going to work. Okay, this 1 hour is fine. You can do it, but 1 or 2 times in a month, we're facing an issue. If that particular iteration is taking more than 1 hour, next
And
iteration,
on the data size.
yeah, depends on the size. And next iteration is getting failed.
Mm.
Okay, so we know the previous iteration is in progress and upcoming iteration should be failed. We made it wantedly failed. How we have handled this? By using the control table. In control table, we kept one flag status. If status is ideal, then run it.
Mm.
If status is in progress, that means process in progress. The previous iteration is still in progress. Then I wanted to make this the latest incoming iteration is there, that has to be failed. I use the fail activity. Previously, they went in a different way. I just asked them to take out it and we went for a fail activity. Okay, so I suggested tumbling window, but they did not accept it. So they don't want to disturb the existed process because it was running for a long period. So they just went with the same schedule trigger only.
Yeah, because we
Later I
also
came out
have
of it.
data from multiple sources like GenAI or
See, whenever there is
AI.
a frequently changes, okay, then definitely this schedule is not going to work. You have to go with the tumbling window. Every 15 minutes, one window will be there, separate window will be there.
Even if I put 10 times of schedules, it will going to face some error, right?
Can you repeat again?
Even if I put the 10 times of schedules in the interval of 1 hour, so sometimes it may be going to an error.
No, it will not.
Not
It will
okay.
not. So trigger will be triggered. Trigger is there for every 1 hour we can create it. That is possible.
Okay.
And okay, so one trigger can iterate depends on every 1 hour. If we keep it, it is going to run it. And one more thing is I wanted to say here. If you want to check the file continuously, we don't need to go for even tumbling window. We can also go for there is a one activity, until activity. You're going to come across it. Until activity is going to check each and every time. You can check the file existed or not. But this pipeline has to run continuously. We cannot give a 100% guarantee. But when you go for tumbling window, we can give a guarantee.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we are running pipeline continuously, then it would be more costly for us.
That's what I'm saying. If you wanted to frequency of the refresh is like this, then definitely you have to go for tumbling window only. No alternative way. Because if it is not finished your job in 15 minutes, it's going to be failed. As I said, the way we implemented in one of the project, you have to implement in that way, but you need to make sure that has to be completed in 15 minutes.
Will the trigger is processing?
Sorry,
The trigger is still processing?
which trigger?
Actually,
Which
of the
one?
screen. That PL underscore incremental loading underscore multiple tables.
Yeah, are you talking about this one or
Yeah,
talking about
this one. Yeah. I'm talking about this one.
Okay, so it will be finished. Let's see. It is done.
Yeah,
If you just open this pipeline, you can see all the stuff here also. How exactly it is executed. All the stuff you can see. Okay.
Okay. That's it.
Take
Bhaskar,
your-
talking about the issue, right? Can we see?
Yeah, I'm stopping here. I hope you can try with this trigger and how we have created this, batch number. This is very important. You have to talk about with batch number when you're explaining how you have handled 100% control table should have the batch number. We are not going to send all the tables at one shot. When you talk about the trigger, you have to add this point. Then they feel that you are having real-time experience. Everyone will talk about the trigger. There are 3 types of triggers. This trigger will do like this. They can say that. You have to give your experience in the interview. Okay. So
Bhaskar, go to the manage tab. Manage tab. Please careful.
okay.
One curly. Go to the trigger.
Okay.
What is curly braces?
Okay. This is a JSON code.
So what is the meaning of this here?
It's a JSON code, man. For everything, there will be some code will be generated. Okay.
And this is 9 hours. What is inside what they are here? Below side.
This one.
It
That's
is
what we already seen with UI. Why you're thinking about this coding? What do you want to do with the coding? Whatever you have done with the UI, the same thing is available here. Whatever here is available, that is what it is showing in the code. Not only this, even if you go for pipeline, for everything will be there. Do you want to learn about this? This is in version 1.
oh,
Okay.
we don't
So
do anything.
we don't do that. We don't do anything with that.
Okay.
Bhaskar, could you go the store procedure?
Okay. Do you want to share your screen, Bharat? I'm stopping here. If you have any question, you can ask me. I'll take a Bharat screen. Okay. So now you're having some issue, right? You can share your screen. And if anyone interested to drop, you can drop. We'll continue on tomorrow session.
Okay, Bhaskar, I'm talking.
Yeah. Thank you.
You can see my screen.
Yeah, I'm able to say.
I
Did you
have a
share
little
the
bit confused
did
here.
did
While
you
using
share
the
did you share the entire
expression,
screen? Did you share the entire screen? You're not following with my practice. First, do whatever I say. Okay, so if you go with your own naming standard, if you go with your things, then definitely there is a chances to have a mistakes. To avoid it, I always recommend do practice whatever I shown with
okay,
naming
Mr.
standard. Once you've done
Okay.
that, once you habituated with the navigation, once you habituated with the naming standard, you can do with your own stuff. That is my request.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so that you don't face any issues.
Okay.
Okay, so try with that, then come to me.
Okay, Mr. I'll try
Okay.
and
Okay, then I'm stopping here.
Sir,
We'll see.
what is that, sir?
Yeah.
I'll share my screen.
Yeah. So Chandra, you
Yes,
can
sir.
share your screen.
Sir, able to see my screen, sir?
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Sir, I'm trying to update this one, sir. It's not happening.
What is the size of the filter column? That is what I asked.
I kept 50, sir.
50.
50 characters I kept. So
Okay, alter
first,
table.
yeah, first one
Okay.
it got updated, sir. This one updated, but second one it's not getting updated, sir.
Can you try again? That is employee. Okay, try.
It's showing executing on, sir. 0.
Filter column, maybe filter is wrong. You just can you go for select star from table name again? Control table. Select star from control table. Take a copy of this employee table. In the table name, there is a table, right? Employee under the table name. No, in the control table, there is a value right in the second row.
Yes, sir.
Second row, no. Only employee. Only I need employee. Just take employee only.
Okay, sir.
Take a employee copy and keep it in a where class. So it is not. It is 0 updated means it's not an error. Just you have to take that box alone to copy. I think there may be some spaces you entered, if I'm correct.
actually there is a spelling mistake.
Yeah, that's what
There is
it
a
is.
spelling mistake.
You just enter that value, you can enter it. Otherwise, just see the value and enter it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now try. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
No worries. Okay, then we'll see
Sure.
on tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for
sir.
joining.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Mr.
Oscar.
Bye.